Intersectionality is one of my favorite terms in the history of philosophy, and it was popularized by Kimberlé Crenshaw in her 1989 essay titled Demarginalizing the Intersection of Race and Sex. Now, this is a term so many people understand really well, so I'm going to explain it just briefly, but there's something I really want to emphasize about this term that I think flies under many people's radars. In this text, Crenshaw looks at various court cases in which black women brought forward complaints that their organization or the company that they worked for were discriminating against them on the basis of their being black women. Now, these court cases demonstrated for Crenshaw that the courts, the judicial system, was wholly unequipped to understand intersectionality. That is, they were unequipped to understand how someone could experience discrimination from many different fronts, from both racism and sexism. Instead, Crenshaw identifies that the court system is only equipped to understand these cases through what she calls the single axis framework. They were only equipped to understand racism and sexism on their own. And this was demonstrated in these court cases because the court systems responded to these women by saying, okay, if we want to know if racism is going on, what we need to do is look at racism. So they looked at this organization and they observed that black men were actually doing quite well. So they were like, okay, well, clearly there's no racism going on. They did the same thing then with sexism, and they looked at the organization and identified that white women were doing quite well. So then they're like, okay, well, clearly there's no sexism going on here. So then they would throw out these court cases brought forward by these black women to say that, we've identified there is neither racism nor sexism in these organizations. So what was going on here? Crenshaw suggests that actually what's going on here is that black women, because they experience discrimination from many different fronts as being both black and women, the court system was actually ill-equipped to understand and to even observe and see this discrimination. And so these court cases were being thrown out. They were unequipped to understand the multidimensionality of oppression that these black women experienced. They were unequipped to understand the intersectionality, the intersection of various forms of oppression. Now, the mysterious part of this text is one line in which she says that the sum of racism and sexism is greater than either racism and sexism combined. So when someone experiences oppression from many different fronts, their experiences exceed the sum of any of those forms of oppression. And in their being exceeded, they then exceed identification from these court systems that uphold white supremacy.